Whenever Lisa Eldridge is dropping something in the eyeshadow compartment, I'm like, take my fucking money. I love the Lisa Eldridge formula. I have several Lisa Eldridge palettes, and I will, by the way, rank them at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And I already saw the spoiler, the leaks of the Baddy palette, and when it got then finally officially announced, I bought it in the Emerald pre-sale. It's always like one day before the actual launch, and if you think this is something special, no, it just requires you to have an account at the Lisa Eldridge website. That's it, and then you get access usually 24 hours before the regular people. It's just, a lot of websites do this. The Baddy palette is the first all shimmer palette, and yes, it is the first Sorcery is not an all shimmer palette because Sorcery has one matte eyeshadow up here, the shade Troubadour. It's a seamless matte. So Baddy is the first all shimmer palette. Baddy has one, two, three, I would say 5 different finishes, because you have luster, luminous, luminous dew, metallic, and then this shade here, this is satin / metallic. And since this is such a small palette, I did not prepare any like swatches or so. We will just do some live swatches. So the first 3 shades that I have here are High Maintenance, Posh, and Lavender Queen. High Maintenance, Posh, and Lavender Queen. High Maintenance is a very, very pretty, brassy, coppery color, beautiful shade. Posh, that I'm wearing nearly all over my lid, stunning. And Lavender Queen, a beautiful, transparent based lavender color. And then we have the second row, we have Prima Donna, which is metallic, Starlet, which is a luminous dew, and Talk to the Paw, which is a luster. So we have Prima Donna, luminous dew, no, Starlet, which is the luminous dew, and Talk to the Paw. When you look at the swatches here, honestly, this is a very interesting combo of shades. Not something that I would have paired together. This very, very unexpected combo of colors, though, gives you a variety of options to pair it with other palettes. I will do in this video 2 looks, and for the first look I will be using mainly like the purples here, these 3, and the second look is what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing the other 3, and I combined it with one Viseart palette, and for the second look I used actually the Fawn palette. When I saw the Baddy palette, one of my first thoughts was actually that it looks a lot like ABH Cosmos. But to be fair, it's really not. It is mainly the overwhelming amount of purple hues that you see here that might just kind of feels similar, but it's definitely not the same. My second thought then was that it looks like ABH Sugar, and again, that comes down to the very, very outstanding bright purple in here. So let me show you once again. So in the Baddy, you have these 2 very, very prominent purples. And in the Sugar palette, the shade C1, I think is the one that just draws a lot of attention to this palette. And then my third thought was, well, then maybe it is a dupe for the Beauty Bay Mini Charms palette that I don't know if it's still available. It has been selling out multiple times now. And how do I say this? How do I hold this up, by the way? I think this, can you even see this? I'm so bad at holding up palettes, you know that. But I think that if we have similarities, it is between these 2 palettes, but let me tell you, not shade-wise, it is more vibe-wise. Because you have this greeny purple shifty shade. This is a greeny purple shifty shade. Then we have the darker purple in the corner here. We have the darker purple here in the corner. We have a lighter pinky with some purple specks throughout. We have Lavender Queen. Then we have some neutral shades that are popping. We have some warm golds. So the vibes, very, very similar, but the shades definitely not. And now I think this is enough of the rambling. Let's head into the two looks and my maybe not so impressive final thoughts of the Baddy palette. So for the first look, I want to be focusing on the purples, and this palette has surprisingly a lot of purples. So we have that lilac here, then the darker one, and this shifty shade here is greeny purple shifting, at least from what I see. When I filmed this first look, I haven't swatched it yet, so I will be pairing this with the Petite Matte Cool from Viseart because I feel like I can make a really nice look with these mattes here and maybe pull in some of the grays. So I'm starting with the shade Sand here, and I use this as my transition color. This is the like most my skin tone fitting transition color ever, so don't expect anything to show up really. It just helps me to keep on blending with the whole look. Now tap into Lilac. Start to apply this here in the crease and I bring it outwards and a bit upwards. Now I tap into Lupin or Lupin and start to blend this in the outer crease and bring it inwards. And then I go into Iris down here and use this on the outer part of the lid and in the crease. With a flat brush, I go into the black here. It's called Elk. And I press this into my lash line. And then I bring it out a little bit and flick it up. I applied some glitter glue and now I go, of course, into the duochrome first. This is the shade Starlit. It's a Luminoso Duo. And I start to apply this here in the inner crease part. Bring it up to the center and a little bit above. Then I go into Prima Donna next to it. This is just a metallic. And apply this on the outer third of the lid. And where they both meet, I just wiggle them together. The Starlit shade I don't like. This is one of those eyeshadows that have quite a bit of a binder in it. I mean, it doesn't look squishy, it doesn't feel squishy, but when you apply this and you maybe apply a bit too much, it gets like chunked up and starts to break up. On the left eye, I then applied, of course, a little bit less, but on the right eye, this is completely like, I don't know, it looks like cracking nail polish a bit. I'm honestly, I'm a bit disappointed in that shade. I think in one of the other palettes there is a luminous duo already and it is not like that, but I have to check in the outro. Honestly, this part of eyeshadow here, it even turned crusty because I applied too much because of that formulation. I am a bit disappointed in this. Take the same flat brush again, use it again with the black from Viseart, and just smudge this along the lower lash line. My eyes are still watery because of freaking allergies. It is so annoying. And I then take Iris and smudge that here on top. For inner corner highlight, I go into Lavender Queen, and this is a satin slash metallic. And I apply it here and also smudge it a bit on the lower lash line. And here we have the finished look. On the lips, I'm wearing MAC Night Moth lip liner together with the shade VPR. Here it is from the Made by Mitchell Rose Garden Cupid case. Well, I am not sold with this first look. I think it is a beautiful first look. Definitely. I didn't create like a monstrosity or so, but I am missing the wow factor that I usually have with Lisa Eldridge eyeshadow palettes. Don't get me wrong, I know exactly what I have to expect, but my expectations in the Lisa Eldridge like niche of makeup are not met here. So hopefully with the second look that will change. For the second look I will be using a Lisa Eldridge palette because I think Fawn is really vibing here since we have in the Baddy palette mainly these neutral ones left. I start with Upper West Side and I use this as my transition color. I then go into Supernaturally and apply this through my crease. And with Burnt Clove here, I darken the outer V. I start now from Baddy with the shade Posh. This is a luminous. And I start to apply this on the center of the lid. And I bring it inwards. And then I let it feather out because I want to apply another shade here on the outer part. So I go into Talk to the Paw, very interesting shade name choice. And that one goes on the outer part of the lid, and then I just wiggle both of the shades together. I also tap back here into Burnt Clove from Fawn and run this through the outer, like half of my crease. So I take Black Clove here from Fawn again and smudge this here on my lower lash line. And then I take Supernaturally and use this to buff everything out. I now go into High Maintenance, although I actually assume that this might be too dark for inner corner highlight, but let's just try it and apply it here. Yeah, it's a pretty, like, brassy, rusty gold, but it is a tad bit too dark for this look. So I just take White Tie here from Fawn, which is one of those wet looking eyeshadows, and I layer it on top. And here you have the finished look. On the lips, I'm wearing the Sephora lip stain liner in the shade 02 Classic Beige, and I paired it with the shade Mothy from the Made by Mitchell, the Cupid Cases, the Muted Nudes one. Personally, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I like this look more than the first look, which mainly comes down to the fact that the luminous color has just a very different formulation to the luminous duo. I don't know what it is, but the luminous duo here is very thick and kind of like not squishy. I don't think that squishy is the right description, because when I talk about squishy shades, I think immediately of Old Minka from Adeb. I think immediately of Odin's Eye. That is definitely not the case here, but it is kind of squishy chunky because of the amount of binder that's in them, and I don't really like the formula of this particular shade, but it is a very pretty shade. When you apply it in a thin layer, you will not have this like clunking up on your eye, but when you don't know that, you might end up with a very weird look. And what I don't understand, honestly, is the fact we had a luminous duo already in the Sorcery palette. The shade Mercurial is also a luminous duo, and this is completely different. This is thin. This, even when I swatch it, feels a bit gritty. So here we have Mercurial from Sorcery, and this one is, what was the name? Starlet from the Baddy palette. When you swatch Starlet with the finger, it even feels more creamy. It feels like a freshly applied layer of cream on your face, you know? It is kind of like, I don't want to say that it feels oily, that is not the case, but it feels creamy, but a little bit too creamy. I'm very, very bad in describing these, and I think the formulation of specifically the Luminous Dew is in the Sorcery palette much better than in the Baddy. I do like the combo of shades that is in here. What I am criticizing in the color story, to be honest, is the shade up here, High Maintenance. I just wish that instead of this very warm, golden, brassy, coppery, you know how I described this, we would have gotten a light shade. You have an inner corner shade with Lavender Queen, for example, but I wish that this would be something like, let me grab it again, like a White Tie from the Fawn palette. I think that would have been so much better in the Baddy palette. My favorite surprise shade of this 6-pan palette are actually Posh and Talk to the Paw. I love these. I wear both on the lid today and they are very, very pretty. Especially Posh has this neutral vibe to it, but with so much sheen that it just gives you a nearly wet look on the lids. And I personally like that a lot. In total, I have 5 Lisa Eldridge palettes, and if I had to rank them, I would say that Baddy is... It's in the 4th place, to be honest. It's not my least favorite because my least favorite palette is actually Fawn, just for the fact that it is a pure neutral palette. It's not leaning warm, it's not leaning cool, it's right in the middle, and it's just too boring for me. I like the quality, that's why I'm of course still keeping it. And as you can tell, I am able to create beautiful looks, but right after that, I want to put Baddy at 4th place because I expected more. And you know, I know how to sort my expectations. I'm well aware of the fact that when I order a Lisa Eldridge palette, when I use a Lisa Eldridge palette, I cannot expect mattes like Narimi or multi-chromes like Cleonate. No, 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 no. I know that. I know what I'm working with. I know what to expect. And in that level of expectation towards Lisa Eldridge eyeshadows, I'm not wowed by this. I do like the combo of colors a lot. I do like the lavender. I like the light touch of it, the borderline pastel-y touch with Lavender Queen. I love the neutral shades in here. I love the finishes, but just it's the overall where I'm just missing something in the Baddy palette. And I know you're curious, you want to also know what my top 3 palettes are. At number 3, definitely the Myth palette. It is absolutely stunning. And I think Myth combined with Baddy and the purple shades in there will be a banger too. At number 2 actually is Sorcery. Such a beauty, and I highly, highly recommend grabbing this if you haven't already. And my favorite Lisa Eldridge palette, and the one where even on the bag there is some of the gold has already rubbed off because I have been using it so much, is definitely Vega. And you might cannot see this, but if you watched my empties, you know that the shade French Gray here, this is a very new one, I actually completely panned. So French Gray is the only eyeshadow that I 100% panned. It also looks like shit here. The black is one of the best blacks ever. I have a big dip here in the shade Smoke and Mirrors. I have a dip in all of the shades because Vega is very, very well. And I kind of feel like I'm comparing every single Lisa Eldridge palette to the excitement and the feeling that I have when I look at Vega. And you know me, I mean, look at my usual looks. This is nothing that you would expect me ranking at as my favorite Lisa Eldridge palette. I think most of you thought that Myth or Sorcery will be, but it's Vega because of its easiness, and because with Vega, let's just peek inside once again, you can do both sides. You can stay very light and neutral, but you can go very, very deep and dark and smoky and intense. I do think that Baddy is a nice addition to the Lisa Eldridge line, but I don't think that Baddy is a must-buy. Unlike the Sorcery palette, where I say whenever you see this somewhere in stock and you don't have it yet, grab it. The formulation is just outstandingly good in the Sorcery. You have so beautiful shades in there, completely different vibe. Let me just hold them up side by side. That helps hopefully. Definitely different vibes in both palettes. Yes, yes, yes. But I like Sorcery over Baddy 10 times more. So I said, is it a must-buy? No. Will it let you down a bit? Maybe, because as said, I don't think that the Luminous Duo formula is the same as in the Sorcery. The other shades in here, I don't have complaints about. They are beautiful, they perform outstandingly good. They perform in the Lisa Eldridge spectacular way. So I hope that this helps you deciding whether or not you want to get the Baddy palette. At the end, it comes always down to your personal preference. Let me know your thoughts, please, down below. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out any of the other upcoming videos, and I see you soon.